living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life. I love you. If you're watching this, you're committed to creating good things in the world. You're committed to adding good wherever you can. You're committed to using your gifts, your talents, and your life experience to do good. And I honor you for that. I really do. It's so easy, especially in today's world, to just take care of yourself and screw everybody else, right? Super easy to do that. And a lot of people do. And there are a group who say, well, I'm going to try a little bit. I'm going to try to do this or try to do that. And then when it doesn't work or something in life sort of gets in the way, they default right back to, I got to take care of me. I got to take care of me. Forget everybody else. And then there's a small number, and you're one of those, who's decided that their desire is to add good to the world no matter what's going on. Their desire is to love and create and serve, regardless of external circumstances. Now, I've told this story before, but I'm going to mention it briefly again. In Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he talked about people in the concentration camp. And for those of you that don't know, Viktor Frankl was a Jewish person who survived the concentration camps during World War II and the death camps and the gas chambers and all the rest. He noticed that even in those terrifying circumstances, there were a few, who were suffering like everybody else, no food and cruelty and all the rest, who made it their business to go around and encourage people, help them, love them, lift them, bless them in different ways. How they talked, how they walked around, what they did with their time, effort, and energy. We only have one thing: time, attention, and love. Kind of like a beam. And it's not like a destructo beam that some alien has, or a X-ray or a fire beam that Superman sends out. Your time, attention, and love is your creative power. And the more time, attention, and love you spend on something, it grows. But anyway, those folks elected to use their TAL beam, time, attention, and love, to lift and bless people instead of fussing about their own, hardship. They chose to use their time, attention, and love beam to bless others instead of fussing only about their own hardship. Well, that's an example. I've used it before, and there are many others. And that's one that stands out. Maybe you know somebody like that. I heard a story the other day, a true story told by a man who is older like me, but whose mom lived in the Depression in the 30s. And he told stories. I guess that would make him older than me. His mom was in the Depression, but it doesn't matter. Told stories about his mother, even though they were struggling like everybody else, food and clothing. She always invited people in, fed them, gave them, clothes if she had them, made a point of collecting old stuff so she could repair it and serve. And the point was just that's what she chose to do. And of course, it left an indelible impression on him as a young boy and then later as a young man. You and I get to choose that. And so I want to invite you to think about something. I titled this episode, The Gift, because we all have a gift to give. You and I, we came to this world, as crazy it is as it is right now. I live in Canada, but you got the United States running around reframing the world order for better or worse. And you got people mad about that and others happy about it. Depends on who you talk to. And that causes some people to freak out. There's a whole group of people having some disease. They're calling it a disease. I don't know, Trump derangement syndrome. And those people that have it think they're absolutely right. But the point is, bitterness, viciousness, anger, fury, where is the love and gift in that? So I'm inviting you with this to consider something with me, and that is, do you really want to live that ultimate life? Then you need to make some choices. I saw a video this morning, and it was talking about something that I've heard about before and seen and actually studied and read a lot of books about, and that is the quantum mechanics of collapsing a wave function or creating your reality. Now, I don't know if you know what a wave function is. I had a math scholarship, so I did some of that stuff. But don't worry about it. What it means is the future, 1 minute from now, even 1 second from now, and certainly a day, week, month, year, decade from now, is actually not written. You know that because it hasn't happened yet. What we don't often realize is that we have power to create that future. That means that time, attention, and love beam we can use as a gift to create good, to create service, to create cash, and to use it for blessing and love and adding more good to the world. Another way that this is so important, this weird physics stuff, is this. You and I have both had traumatic experiences in our past. Maybe yours are 100 times worse than mine. Often people all think, oh, I had the worst life in the world. Nobody could ever have such a horrible set of experiences as me. And maybe that's true. I give everyone that. It's not a competition. But what I know about it is this. Whatever event happened to you or around you happened. But when we remember them, we're not playing a videotape. The mind doesn't work like that. We're recreating them. And we're redescribing them. And even if you think about something that happened a year ago or 5 years ago, the story you tell about it, whether you're telling it to someone else or yourself, is different. It feels different. You remember different details. The feelings can be different. All that kind of stuff is true. And here's why that matters. Because when we recreate, not remember, but recreate those experiences, especially trauma, if we recreate them the same all the time, this happened, it means this, these are the consequences, then it continues in the same path. If we choose to recreate those, like look at them differently, and that's the blessing of time. I can tell you right now, if I look at my traumatic events, and I'm not comparing them to yours, but if I look at my traumatic events, things that I remembered horribly, badly, cruelty, abuse, all kinds of stuff, and I create them differently. Let me give you some examples. I used to remember certain abusive events and blame the people responsible. Furiously, fiercely, they should have known better, it was evil, wrong, etc., right? As time has gone on, I realize a new truth. The new truth is nobody was intending to be vicious and cruel. They may have been frustrated, uneducated, not having not having the same standards we have today about how to treat kids. All that's true. And so what that does is it gives me true and real substance through which I can reinterpret, re-understand those events. And yes, I've gone to therapy and done EMDR and different kinds of treatments to deal with them. But the fundamental thing is I now understand those things differently. Now that the events were whatever they were, I understand them differently now, especially differently than I felt them at the time as a kid, 6 years old, 7 years old, 10, 12, 15, even into adulthood, some, a bunch of really abusive things. But I understand them differently now. So guess what? They don't hurt anymore. I'm not angry anymore. I have long since deeply and truly forgiven. Now, so what? Here's so what. I'm free now. I'm free of those. I'm free to love. I'm free to love those that did those things. I love them without any reservation. And I wish and hope and try to create every powerful good thing for them. That has freed me completely. Now, I want to talk about this quantum physics stuff for a minute. You can measure, there's a principle called superposition. And maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But it says that two things are in the same state at the same time. You've heard of Schrodinger's cat, alive and dead. There's a marble and box experiment where the marble's in both boxes until we open the lids. You know, all kinds of things. And these are done in the laboratories, and they're absolute science. And the conclusion comes to every time. Things exist in multiple states until we interact or observe. If you can argue with that and say bullshit and then go on about your way, and I'll just ask, how's that working for you? If you're still bugged by trauma, if you're still bugged by doubt and fears, if you're still overwhelmed with procrastination or negative feelings or lack of loving yourself or money problems or inability to create or keep cash around or doubting your own worth or 100 other things like that, if you're still plagued like that, then you're not hearing the possibility. So I titled this The Gift because I want to give you a gift. It is the gift of freedom. You were born with a superpower, perhaps several. I know that because when I died in 2018, coming on 8 years ago now, I had 3 conversations with God, and I learned that each of us, you and me and everybody else, we're created on purpose out of love. We're put in this earth in all kinds of different circumstances. Some of them are terrible and sad, and some of them are not. And some of them are okay, except with terrible and sad episodes. And some of them are so easy and good, and we don't even take advantage of that easy and good. Right? But the thing that matters most of all is how we choose to interpret and use those events. When I used to hear people say, nothing is either bad or good unless we make it so, Shakespeare said something like that, and quantum physics has now demonstrated nothing's real until we observe it. That gives me such power, and you too. Another thing I learned from that divine experience was that you and I each have gifts. So I've been on a mission to find mine and use them. And you know what I found? They're not hard to find. If you're having trouble finding your superpower and gift, get a hold of me. Get a hold of me. Okay? Because I can help you find them. It's easy. It is not complicated. There's a website that I have, and often I have it on the screen, but I don't. Today, go look at another episode if you can't remember it, but it is Kellan Fluckiger Media.com. Kellan Fluckiger Media.com, and there's a contact form. If you can't find your superpowers plural, you can. I can help you. And the gift I want to give you today is to know for sure that you have them. You can find them without delay, and you can change the world with them. Now, you know, there's an old movie, I don't know how old, kind of old, with Dustin Hoffman called Rain Man, and it was about this particular kid that was born in Salt Lake, I think, who had the corpus callosum, the big bundle of nerves that connects the brain hemisphere, missing. And, you know, the doctor said at 9 months he was going to be institutionalized the rest of his life. And, of course, he developed these genius capabilities. He had 12,000 books memorized. He'd memorized the whole Bible by the time he was like 6 or something. You know, he had staggering abilities, and they couldn't even begin to explain how with all that stuff missing. So I don't care what challenges you have now or you've had. You are a miracle. You're a walking miracle. I love you. I'd love to help you find your superpower. My point in telling the story about Kim, was his actual name, is this. No matter what you've been through, you still have a superpower. And in fact, the experiences of my life and those that I have worked with help you and I shape and build that superpower. The experiences of life give us the opportunity to discover it, to develop it, and to serve like crazy. And, you know, when I look on social media, I was looking this morning because I always look at comments, and and especially Messenger, because clients communicate with me that way. So many people are like, sell this, sell this, sell this, do this, change that. You'll make money, 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 money. Everything's about money. And you know what? We need money. You need money, and you need plenty of it, and you need not to be worried about where your next rent payment or meal or anything else is coming from, and you should be able to accumulate a lot. But you know what? The fear around this is what gets in my way, has gotten in my way. It's not anymore, but it used to. And I had to learn some things about that, about this reinterpreting and about changing how I thought of myself, because that's given me power now to create all the money I want. And it will you too, because I'm not magic. I'm slow. I didn't even start this work until I was 52. 70 now, so I've been working on it for 18 years, but going on 19, I guess. It's available to all of us right now. And this video I saw this morning about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and this superposition and all that gobbledygook just proved it one more time. Now, I love researching that. There was a television series based on a book a little while ago called Dark Matter. And it was exactly about this superposition, the fact that all possible futures are available, right? I mean, every time you make a decision, you go down a certain path, and another decision would have gone down another path, and therefore there's infinite number of branches. All of those are available until we choose. And what I used to stumble over is, yeah, that might be true, but the things that are available to me now are severely limited by the crap that's happened in the past, or by the fact that I'm already, I didn't start till I was 52, or the fact that I've got this struggle or that struggle, or this reality, these bills, this stuff. I used to believe those were my possibilities in the future were limited because of that, and they're not. They're not. Everything in the past is subject to this beautiful, I'm going to call it reinterpretation. And let me give you an example. When I did some EMDR therapy, which is, some eye movement stuff, it doesn't matter. It works. And what it does, the working, is exactly what I'm talking about. It is a tool, one among many, to help you or me re-understand, reimagine, recreate the interpretation of, guess what, the past. When you do that, it doesn't feel the same today. So the weight, the baggage, the attitude, the feeling, the opinion about it changes. And suddenly, not suddenly, you have to do the work, but suddenly, essentially, you feel differently about yourself, your possibilities, the horizon, and everything that's available. So most people live today like their thoughts don't matter, like attention is neutral, and that their identity is fixed. Well, all three are wrong. Your thoughts, they absolutely create your reality. They create that collapsing of the superposition, the multiple realities into one. Okay? We act often like our attention doesn't matter. Well, your attention, time, attention, and love is what causes growth or stagnation in our life. And another thing that happens is your identity is not fixed. Your personality, if you want to call it that, that's just how I am. All that crap came from, you know where it came from, the set of interpretations. I call it your be deep, beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions. Well, if you have any of those, it came from the past, because you can't have any experience with the future yet. It's not here. So your be deep, beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions have created what you experience as reality. And the truth is, if you can go back and change all of those, I'm not talking about changing what happened, what you believe about it, how you define it, what you expect the outcome is, what you experience now as you reinterpret, that will change everything about the present. So this whole business about creating the future doesn't have to do only with the future. It has to do with taking creative control and rewriting the story. And it's important to understand this is not pretending. This is not ignoring. This is not, well, let's sweep it under the rug and pretend that that betrayal didn't destroy my life, because it did, and I can't pretend anything else. Good, don't. Don't. The easiest way to prove that is even in your own life. You can think of several things right now where at the time they happened, you said to God or the universe, not fair, why me, raging, why them, how dare you, whatever the language is, right? And later, a day, week, month, year, decade, people say, and I know you've done that, that was actually a good thing. I'm glad that happened. I didn't think so at the time, but it really is one of the best things that happened to me. That is the reinterpretation. That is the re-understanding with the benefit of either change of circumstance, change of belief, change of understanding, reinterpretation. My point right now is that happens occasionally with some things when we do this accidentally. If you learn to do this on purpose, you can change anything about your past and create a brand new present. What's the benefit of a brand new present? And I don't mean Christmas present. What's the benefit of a brand new present? A brand new present, meaning present tense. All those possibilities that you thought were eliminated are now available to you. Remember the thread. Earlier I said, when we have this story about how hard done by or negative all this crap was in the past, and we look at our future opportunities from that chair, we're like, oh, I can never do that because I'm too late in life. I don't have enough skill. I don't know enough. Don't know the right people, whatever. Big, long list of excuses, and they're all BS. And the answer isn't to fight with it. The answer is put yourself in a different present moment by re-collapsing the realities of the past, by re-understanding them. A way to look at that is finding the gold, finding the benefit. What was the gift there? Now, it's one thing to pretend, what was the gift there? Nothing. Okay, I'll pretend there was one. None of that is what I'm talking about because it doesn't work. I'm talking about stuff here that actually works. So sitting, learning to meditate, being at peace with yourself, understanding that people did whatever they did, that's what made sense to them. It isn't our job either to judge or to punish. There's laws for that, depending on what it was and what happened. I got all that. Carrying hate kills you and me, not them. And so by recreating our present moment, by re-understanding, reinterpreting, recasting all those traumatic events that you thought ruined you, because you have the ability to do that, and it isn't hypnosis and it isn't therapy or even EMDR. I use that. There's all kinds of tools to do that, but the point is get it done, because when that happens, you now sit in a different chair, and all the doors in front of you of possibility have changed. Your ability to give a gift has now multiplied by 1,000,000. So here's a phrase to keep in mind. Most people think we're reacting to life. Not true. You are constantly participating in creating your reality. Okay, now I talked a little bit about physics and quantum mechanics and stuff like that. Here's what I know from reading many books about Feynman and Einstein and Bohr and, all the people that have sort of delved into this, father of quantum mechanics and everything else. It's terrifying, because then that means the solid, dependable, this is how it works rules aren't real. Think about that. If this scares So they don't want to talk about it very much. Don't think too hard about it. If this scares them, imagine what the possibilities really are and how fun life becomes. You and I get to create our lives, your own truth. Okay? Your own truth. What I mean by that is not to run around and disobey laws and get put in jail or do stuff. I'm talking about the truth of who you are after you reinterpret and recreate things that happened before. Let me give you some examples. I struggled with a lot of physical punishment that today would be felony child abuse. It would have been removed from the home today. Okay. And I interpreted that for a long time. I struggled with depression, medication, self-sabotage. I hated myself, addictions, a couple of suicide attempts. Now I understand all those things differently. They all happened. Yeah, all the bruises were real and all the, this, that, and the other, all that was real. But what I understand now is there was no opportunity for them who inflicted that to do something different. That's all they understood. So I love them anyway. I love them for being in the midst of a circumstance. They didn't know how to navigate, and so they handled it the best way they can. And then when I think about my own life and the messes that I've made, I think the same thing. I did the best that I could with what I had. And now, as I re-understand that, my heart swells with forgiveness and love. What that forgiveness and love in my heart does is it eliminates all the barriers and negativity. It eliminates all the pain. It eliminates all the feeling that I can't do this or that because I can't recreate a business because I can't speak in public because I can't sing in public because I can't, whatever it is, build a business powerfully. I can't make $1 billion because none of those things are true. They're not true for me and they're not true for you. So what the work that I do comes from me finding my gifts. My gift, I have the ability, this is a gift I have, to help you pull out your superpower and flip and change the world. That's my gift. I can help you pull out your superpower and change the world. What does it mean to change the world? Well, it might be the world right around you. It might be $1 million that you need to make to create your vision. It might be $1 billion. It might be repairing relationships. It might be making a difference in any one of 100 physical things that we need: food, water, education, literacy, freedom, cruelty, etc., etc. But you have that ability. The question I ask you and me, I ask me all the time. None of these things I talk about are for you. They're me just sharing my learnings. Am I doing this today? What am I doing right here, right now, today to add good to the world? Right now, I'm recording this to love you with everything I've got. I absolutely love you. I don't know where you've been and what difficulties you've been through. What I know is you have power right now to change directions, recast, reinterpret, re-understand, and therefore recreate your present by re-understanding the past events, including trauma. The most powerful gift that you and I have to offer the world is who we really are. And who we really are changes as we do this work. So the work that I do, I said I help people pull out that superpower. The one you have a superpower. And if you pretend you don't, I'm sorry. Why are you doing that? You have a superpower. So I help you see yourself differently. Not a little, wildly differently. As infinite, capable, possible. Then I help you understand that not only is a new outcome possible, it's likely and it's in your hands. And then I help you collapse your own negative probabilities and get to positive and creative ones, which means cash, it means purpose, and it means joy, wealth, impact, and meaning. When we talk from who we really are, we change all that probability field around us. We spend so much time pretending and doing things that we think we're supposed to do to prove ourselves in this world. How crazy. So here's a couple of things that people get stuck on. I used to. I know this because I used to. If people really knew me, they wouldn't like me. So I'm afraid to be open and essentially vulnerable. I'm afraid of that. I used to be. That kept me from sharing things I knew would help. Withholding is not neutral. Hiding is not neutral. Pretending you're going to spare someone else's feelings is not neutral. It is damaging to you, to them, and to those you might serve. I want you to think about it. Withholding truth is damaging to you, to them, and to people you might serve. I'm not talking about, putting on a trash show where our goal is to bash people, but talking about it from your own perspective, your own transformational journey is powerful for you and those you serve. In fact, here's the truth. The most powerful gift that you or I have to give the world is the story of our own becoming, this learning. And what I'm hoping to do today and offering you is a gift about how to make that story of becoming way more powerful. Think about it. As you sit here today, you see a certain set of possibilities and you see a certain set of limitations. Can't do this because whatever. If you could change your present view and all those limitations that you see today would not be there, what would you do differently? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do differently? If you knew you were infinitely loved, what would you do differently? If you had the ability to completely forgive and carry no negativity, what would you do differently? If you had the ability to speak confidently about what you offer the world, what would you do differently? And you can ask that question 100 different ways, and it blows your mind when you sit down and actually think about it. So here's what I do, what I've learned to do, because this wasn't natural and it wasn't automatic. When I show up, I model expansion. I model possibility all the time, every conversation with whoever I'm talking to, and I'm giving you permission to do the same. So let's talk a little bit more about how to do this. It starts with your thinking, right? It starts with our thinking. I read somewhere the other day that we don't really see with our eyes. Creating experiences, if we did, you would expect the visual cortex in the brain to have mostly neural pathways from the eyes. It doesn't. About 20% of that area of the brain has neurons that come from the eyes, and the other 80% comes from the part of the brain that has memory. So we see a little bit and we build the rest of it. We construct the rest of it from memory. Well, that right there ought to tell you past memories. We can reconstruct all those, not to pretend that they didn't happen. I'm not saying that, but what they mean, what they did to us, how they currently affect us. How they currently affect us. There's some specific examples, and I'm not going to give details, of some cruel and terrible things that happened to me. I know that I used to interpret them in a certain way, and it brought me to a certain belief system and feelings in the present. Not today, but that present. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Choosing how we think is not a nice to have. It's actually a creative act. Your thoughts are not a decoration. They're direction, like a movie director creating a film. So I want you to consider these three things. What story are you rehearsing? Because like I said before, if you think of a terrible event in your life, like I have in mine, and you think about how you have rehearsed that meaning, well, what if you rehearse a new play? What if you write a new play? And again, I'm never saying that things didn't happen. Of course they happened. But we get to decide the meaning. And I can tell you this works because I've done it over and over again, and it's changed everything. It's changed how I feel, changed how happy I am, changed my relationships, changed the cash in my bank account. It's changed everything. You have that ability in your hands right here, right now. So your thinking is not a commentary. It's actually authorship. You're writing your life. Now, I want to tie this all into story, because we've been talking in the last episodes about story and the dreambuildwriteit.com book challenge. And I invite you to go there right now, dreambuildwriteit.com, dreambuildwriteit.com. And the reason is because I have studied and learned better than anybody in the world about how to take that story you have about yourself, whether it's good or grumpy, and turn it into power, turn it into cash, turn it into a movement, turn it into meaning. Okay, wealth, impact, and meaning. WIM, wealth, impact, and meaning is the phrase I use. It is yours to create. You're free to live with the one you got, or you can create a new story by reauthoring the past. And I want you to think about, I know I said it earlier, but how powerful that is. Because if I reauthor the past, where I am today is different. I am where I am today because of the story I have today about the past. If I reauthor the past, I find myself today in a different place with different possibilities for meaning, impact, and wealth. So I invite you to do that. You get clarity about your thinking, especially if you review your story and you write it down. I found that the discipline involved in creating a book, it's a monologue. You got to have a beginning, middle, and end. You got to take someone on a journey. The discipline of doing that is more clarifying than anything I've ever done by far. And that's one of the reasons I've written 23 books now, is because every time I do it, it's powerful. It's clarifying. It's good. It's exhilarating. And I think of new ways to bless and serve, and new ways to create cash. But the cash comes from adding good to the world. The cash comes from really making a difference, not just thinking of some cool thing to sell. You're invincible, you're capable, and you have the ability to do anything you want. So I'm inviting you right now to go to dreambuildwriteit.com. The challenge is at the end of February, the next one, but when you see this, it might be after that. Go there anyway, because we do them regularly. Dreambuildwriteit.com. Sign up. This will be a place to clarify your story. It'll clarify your thinking. It'll clarify, re-empower is a better word, what you believe about yourself. And that is so valuable, not only for you and enjoying your own life, but how you can create meaning, money, mastery, and add good to the world. You're not here by accident. What you think and speak is important, and it controls how we show up and how we shape the world, and that's the gift. I know this can help. I'd love to be a part of that, so you can move forward and create your ultimate life.
Never hold back, and you'll never ask why. Open your heart, and this time around,
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe,
feet on the ground.
share,
With your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.